Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining John Carroll's webinar on the Center for Service and Social Action. My name is Abby Joyce, an Associate Director of Enrollment at JCU and also a John Carroll alum, class of 2008. I'm really excited to have you all here with us tonight. To begin tonight's webinar, I welcome Sister Catherine Feely, Director for the Center for Service and Social Action.
Thanks so much, Abby, and welcome everyone. We are really delighted to be with you tonight and talk a little bit about the work of the office and all the extraordinary opportunities that you have to get involved, to make a difference, to connect your classroom learning with engagement in the community. And we'll talk a little bit about that throughout the presentation. I would invite you to throw any questions that you may have into the chat at any point along the way. We'll do some question and answer at the end of the session, but feel free to pop in, let us know what your questions are, and hopefully we can address them all the way through our time tonight. We'll give you a brief outline of the session just so you have a sense of where we're going to go and what we're going to be talking about. We'll tell you a little bit about what is the Center for Service and Social Action. It really is a dynamic place. It's something that you're going to want to know about at John Carroll. It's a wonderful place to get involved. We'll talk about different ways you can connect with the opportunities at John Carroll through our office. Wonderful array of opportunities. We also have student leaders on our call tonight, so they will tell you from a student perspective. They were in your shoes not that long ago, but they'll be able to tell you from their point of view why getting involved matters, what a difference it's made to their career paths, and what are the leadership roles that they have been able to assume in their time with us. And then we'll open it up for Q&A. So that just gives you a quick overview of the session. We hope this is informal and to engage in dialogue with you as well. So first of all, let me just step back and tell you a little bit about the Center for Service and Social Action. First of all, it is a dynamic hub of engagement. We're actually an academic unit at John Carroll, so we connect academic courses with experiential learning in the community. So what might that look like? Well, if you're studying business and learning about tax preparation in your accounting classes, you would be working with the volunteer income tax program and helping fill out returns for members of the community with one of our community partners. So the classroom work is informed by your engagement in the community. If you're an early literacy specialist studying education as your major, you might be working in the class to understand what the assessment tools might be for determining how a reader is developing or not developing. The placement for that would be working with a child and tutoring in an early literacy program in the community. So we really connect the classroom experience with the community engagement piece, and it's pretty remarkable. But John Carroll has so many different ways that you can find your own passion. And we hope that you'll think about that as you make your own choices. So the Center for Service and Social Action is a place where you can belong. It's an academic center of learning. It's a place where you can develop leadership. It's also a place where you discover things that you're passionate about. Many, many different opportunities happen through our office each and every week. And it's a great way to discover what you really enjoy doing. And for so many students, sometimes it opens their eyes to things they had not thought about before and turns them on to a whole new career path that they may not have thought about before joining the work of the office. And more importantly, it's a place to make a difference. So each and every one of you have an amazing skill set, gifts to offer, vision for how you want to be in the world. And we help connect those things through the work we do. I will turn it over to Heather, who will tell you a little bit more about how the office actually works and what we do at the center.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Sister Catherine. My name is Heather Craigie. I'm the Assistant Director for Student Development in the Center for Service and Social Action. I'm really excited to be able to be in conversation with you all tonight. So it's my great privilege to work, with many of our students who are both enrolled in service and who are the leaders for our service learning activities. And as you can see here on this slide, and as Sister Catherine started to explain, what we do in CSSA really touches on many different aspects of your overall experience at John Carroll. You'll learn through, if you take a service learning class, you'll have that chance to be placed weekly with a community partner, building relationships over 10 weeks of the semester, and bringing that real world experience back into your coursework. You'll have a chance to serve the community, to really live out some Jesuit values and ideals in doing a faith that does justice, and working to learn about Cleveland, learn about the assets in the different neighborhoods, and begin to contribute your own skills. And then leadership. This is a place where you can not only participate, but you can lead. We have a very expansive sense of leadership. So we really encourage you to bring, all of who you are to our work. You each have unique gifts and skills, and we just can't wait to engage with those and help you develop your leadership even further. So next, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, John Jackson, who's our Assistant Director for Community Partnerships.
Hi, everybody. Welcome this evening, and thanks for joining us to learn about the Center for Service and Social Action. I'm so pleased that you're here. So as Sister Catherine and Heather shared a little bit about what our office does, the academic adventure that is service learning. So we have the academic department we're the academic department that coordinates all the community engaged learning, preparing students for that lifelong civic engagement. We cultivate lifelong learners at John Carroll University, and that starts by what you do in the classroom in your 4 years here. And so we like to tout that we've got 70 plus courses of engaged faculty. So that means that any given semester, there's about 35 service learning courses. And Heather mentioned some of those are weekly engagement, where you would be going out into the community and interacting for the 10-week period. And then some are project-based, where it's a little bit more research-oriented. There's a more global look at systems in place, and you take a more research route that is led by your professor or faculty member. And our office is the one that helps facilitate those ventures. And so, as I mentioned, we do have our weekly service courses, and that's kind of the bulk of what we are working towards when we are talking about service. But along with that, we recognize that once people get a taste of that, working with the community and get involved, they don't really want to stop. So there's a voluntary aspect too. So at the beginning of the semester, all of our students in service learning courses register for some type of service. And then we have about a week where students that aren't necessarily in a service learning course, but still want to be involved on some type of weekly service commitment on their own behalf, or because they want to get hours for clubs or anything like that, they have the chance to sign up for a committed voluntary service. And then we call one-time opportunities. These are special events or just one-time options that students can sign up for. So for example, we have a one-time option coming up in the next few weeks with the Cleveland Food Bank. We also have a one-time option with a mobile health clinic, and our students would just go and volunteer their time for a few hours, and then that would be what is expected of them for that. And then we also have special events, kind of signature events that our office helps put on throughout the school year. One of those you'll hear about shortly is the Jesuit Day of Service. And I believe that is Drew is going to be, we'll be sharing about that in just a moment. So as Sister Catherine shared, college is a journey. You guys are at the precipice of this, which is so exciting. And you use these 4 years to find your passion. And we hope that you're able to do that at John Carroll with the Center for Service and Social Action. And so through what we have to offer, we have 100 weekly activities. If you are passionate about the environment, if you are passionate about education, about homelessness and the problem of homelessness, about interacting with and learning about your elders or, history of Cleveland. Those things are all opportunities that we offer through voluntary service or through coursework that our professors offer and our faculty offers, which is really exciting. And through all of those wonderful activities, we've been able to really create a strong relationship with so many wonderful community partners. And that's my job, to sustain those relationships and grow them and grow new ones. But it's the reputation of our John Carroll students and the continued effort, respect, commitment that they show year after year, semester after semester, that allows us to do this. And our community partners time and time again share with me and our office how impressed they are by our students' willingness, by their just openness to make new connections and form strong relationships. And so all of that is because of the work that we do, but more importantly, what we do can't happen without student volunteers and the students being involved. So, find your passion here with us. And one of those things that some students get really passionate about is some of our signature events, which Drew will be sharing about for our Jesuit Day of Service.
Thanks, John. Hey, everybody. I'm Drew. I'm a senior on campus. I'm an accounting major and I minor in entrepreneurship, and I'm one of the student leaders in CSSA. So Jesuit Day of Service, I've been the project coordinator since I was my first year. So this will be my fourth and last Jesuit Day of Service this year. But like John was saying, this is one of our big special events in the Center for Service and Social Action. And first of all, it's a day where anybody can get involved on campus. We've had alumni be involved, we've had first year students, and we've had faculty and staff. So it's a day where everybody on campus joins and does service for the community around Cleveland in one day. What it looks like in person is a day where students go out to our community partners that Sister Catherine was talking about, and we do service for them for 2 hours. And John Carroll is all over Cleveland. We're in the Hawk community, we're around here and up by campus, and we're in some awesome places doing service through one day. But as you know, the struggles with the pandemic, I know you're going through it your senior year and it's tough. We're all trying to get through it together. But last year we pivoted to a virtual week of service. So we were able to challenge students through our Instagram and our social media outlets to do good in their communities, even at home. So for example, I'm from Buffalo. I was home in Buffalo trying to do good for things in my community, even though I was virtual on campus. And also it's the last Saturday in April usually. And so it's a great way to wrap up the semester. It's an awesome, usually we get good weather. We usually try to pray for no rain, but it's an awesome day to get involved. And, when you're on campus, I totally encourage you to do it because it's a great in-person event to bring the whole campus community together. And I'm going to pass it off to Ray to talk a little bit about what our student workers do at CSSA.
Thank you, Drew. So my name is Ray, and I'm a junior at John Carroll. And I just wanted to share a little bit about my role within CSSA as a student liaison and a member of our leadership team. Heather and Sister Catherine both kind of mentioned early on in the presentation that our center is, highly student-driven and doesn't function without the hard work of, our student volunteers and our student coordinators. So within CSSA, there's kind of a large leadership breakdown. And that can turn into the roles of student liaisons, who are essentially a peer mentor and literally the drivers of the van. I mean, they're driving the service initiatives on a weekly basis or for one-time drives, but they're also trying to build a sense of community among people going to the same service site every week and trying to build a good rapport with the community partner as well, because you're a reflection of John Carroll and a representative from our school. And so we really look for ways to engage our students in this process because, it's through the students' hard work that CSSA has such a good reputation on campus. And so, if this is something that you feel called to, it's definitely a worthwhile investment, and it's going to sound good, but it's also going to make you feel good, and it's going to do good. So it's a paid position that you can actually apply for within our campus. And it's just an opportunity to do some meaningful work in a really fun atmosphere. There's, a lot of energy among our student group, and we sort of feed off of one another, and we cross paths. And even in a virtual year, like right now with service, we're finding ways to, engage with tutoring on virtual formats. And we have student leaders, managing the Zoom calls and running reflections for service for students, because we really want to try and make it the most encompassing process as possible. Try and do as much as we can, glean as much out of this as possible. And so then there's a secondary component to that, climbing the ladder a little bit, and that's the student leadership team, of which Drew, Jordan, and myself are all representatives of as well. And that's kind of this, 8 to 9 member student team within CSSA who really are driving the initiatives and the eyes and ears for the other liaisons. So if it's something that you feel like you are really getting into service, and you're already a liaison, but you want more and you want to have some input, this might be an opportunity for you to just keep in the back of your mind. I remember even at Celebration when I was a senior, I had a conversation with our service director and Heather, and they kind of put this idea in the back of my mind, and sure enough, here I am. So just something to think about, but definitely, you'll see them, you'll know who they are if you're even involved in service in any way. And so now I'm going to pass it off to, I believe, Jordan, to talk about her summer internship with CSSA that she had last year.
Thanks, Ray. Yeah, so like everyone else, I am Jordan. I'm also a member of the student leadership team. I'm a junior from Pittsburgh, double majoring in exercise science and psychology. And yeah, so CSSA is a very broad center at John Carroll. There's a lot of ways you can get involved, as mentioned before, through weekly or one-time services, through different courses you may be taking, through Jesuit Day of Service, through other events on campus. And one thing that I think is really cool is that there's this opportunity for a summer in the city internship. It's a branch of CSSA, but it gives you a little bit of independence and gets you to dive in deeper with whatever you are passionate about. So it's a really cool program that is full-time all summer, usually June 1st through the middle of August. It's paid. It's a really good way to get engaged with CSSA and get engaged in other parts of the community as well. So for example, last summer, finishing up my sophomore year, I decided to participate in this internship program. And I was at Boys Hope, Girls Hope, which is a nonprofit in Cleveland. So I got to learn all about nonprofit administration and work with the kids that are at that community partner. And it was a really cool way to get to know community partners in a different way and engage in the community in a whole new experience. So it really it really gives you a way to dive into service in a very unique way. And before this past year, I had never heard of a program like this before. A service-based internship is an interesting way to spend your summer, but I don't regret a single thing about it. And I would highly recommend it for anyone, especially like right after your freshman or sophomore, junior year. It's a really great opportunity and gives you a lot of ways to dive deeper in the community as well as in CSSA. So these are just some pictures from last summer. The one picture of the van is a program that I actually got to help run through my internship. Was a grocery program that we delivered food and supplies to different families that were involved with the organization, which was really cool and a really unique way to reach out to the community, especially during COVID.
And I saw there's actually a question in the chat. Oh, you're on it, Sister Catherine. Thank you, Julia, for your question. And housing is available on campus for students who choose it, or we're happy to help with, connecting interns with one another if they want to be housemates, that kind of thing. So wonderful. Great. Thank you so much, Jordan, for sharing about your internship. I'm now going to turn it back to Sister Catherine to talk about one of our other exciting programs, Meet Clee.
So as you begin your career at John Carroll, one of the opportunities that you have the very first week that you're here on campus is to join us for a Living the Mission Day. It's part of the new student orientation process, and it's a program where you get to meet your classmates as well as the community where you'll be spending so much time over the next 4 years. So Meet Clee is a dynamic interactive day where you get to meet our community partners up close. You would do an activity of a service project with them in the morning in smaller groups of 10 to 20 students, depending on the placement. Everyone gathers down on the waterfront at the river, a little place called Merwin's Wharf, for a cookout lunch and things, lawn games, cornhole tournaments, things like that. And then the afternoon part of the event is a tour of Cleveland, either by paddle boats, canoes, bikes, a bike tour of Cleveland, or a walking tour. So students really enjoy this particular way of getting to know Cleveland, but it's part of getting to know the mission as well. And it's just a really fun event. You get to see exactly why John Carroll is the special place that it is through the eyes of our community partners. They'll tell you a lot about what happens and why John Carroll students make a difference and help sustain some of the nonprofits that really have vital missions, especially during this time of the pandemic. And even though we've been virtual in terms of our service activities, I know that our partners, like each and every one of you, cannot wait for life to get back to normal, where face-to-face is just a given again. So think about Meet Clee. It's a great way to get involved. The picture that you see on the screen is a variety of different group activities. So you see the dragon boats on the lower left, where you really learn how everyone has to have their oars going the same way to move the boat forward, but it's an awful lot of fun. There's a bike tour of Cleveland. There's a whole new riverfront canal path that's paved. So it's a great way to see the city that you wouldn't get to see any other way. And then there's also opportunities for walking tours to see the upper left corner. They were touring some of the murals, the community murals that have really built new community coherence and vision in the city of Cleveland. And so this day you pick your adventure and you join us for the day. And Heather was going to move us on to the next slide for our student leaders to share a little bit about what the difference of getting involved has meant to them while they're at John Carroll.
Absolutely. So we would love to hear, directly from some students who've taken advantage of so many different aspects of our work at CSSA. So yeah, Ray, Jordan, and Drew, we look forward to hearing some thoughts about how has involvement with CSSA really impacted your John Carroll experience, and perhaps even, your future directions or your sense of vocation moving forward. So I'll start with you, Ray.
All right, great. Thank you, Heather. So yeah, I mentioned earlier I'm a junior at John Carroll, but just to give you all a little bit of background about myself, I graduated in 2018 from Highland High School, which is in Medina, Ohio. And I'm currently studying a double major in Spanish and Hispanic Studies and Sociology Criminology with a minor in Population Public Health. And I will admit that I did not know what I wanted to do coming into college. And I actually used a lot of my experiences through CSSA to help me navigate that. And that's not necessarily an expectation that you use your service learning opportunities to figure out what you want to do with your life, but it can certainly inspire you in ways that you probably don't even realize. And I went through quite a bit of discovery through my semesters as a student liaison, and I'm still growing and kind of learning from that. I did a lot of education-based service this past year, which would be like tutoring in the community. We have so many partnerships with schools in the area that really rely on students at our university to help with their classes and their coursework. And that was when I was considering a teaching career. And then I found that while I loved working with kids, teaching was a bit challenging. So now I'm actually I'm volunteering with Rainbow Connect in University Hospitals, which is a major Cleveland hospital. And I'm actually reaching out to patients individually over the phone to talk about resources that they may be in need of, such as resources to help with food insecurity, baby supplies, you name it. So that has really sparked a lot of interest in me in socioeconomic factors and the social determinants of health. And that has ultimately led me to my goal of pursuing a master's in public health after my undergraduate years. And so kind of along the way, CSSA has always kind of been there for me. And even, from the moment I sort of started my tenure on campus, my first week, I went on Living the Mission Day and I met Clee, so to speak. And even though I'm from Northeast Ohio, getting to see this area in a whole new way by sort of implanting myself in the community has been really eye-opening and very, very cool. And going to a public high school, I didn't get a ton of exposure to service opportunities. And I'd imagine that with the pandemic, many of you have been, hard pressed to find really active and engaging service opportunities at this time. But if that's something you feel called to do or just look into, you may find that you really love it. And so that's sort of my spiel about that, because I think there's so much to offer in CSSA and or just in a service learning class where you're really expanding your worldview. And I think CSSA does a really nice job of wrapping that all up into one nice package where you're learning inside and outside the classroom, and it's not something you're so removed from, because these are community partners that John Carroll has built a relationship with for decades, and you get to play a part in that. And that is so cool. And you can take that however far you want, whether it's just for one semester of service to say you did it and check it off your JCU bucket list, or climb the ladder and become a student liaison and a student leadership team member. So, it's sort of been a through line of my entire John Carroll, experience. And I can't wait to see what it does for me in this, my final year here next year. So, gosh, I'm getting emotional thinking about that, but it's been quite a roller coaster with CSSA. So I'm happy that I found out about this opportunity so early on at John Carroll, and I'm so glad you guys are all tuning in tonight. So Jordan, I think you're going to share your thoughts now as well.
Thanks, Ray. That was definitely, wow. Thanks, Ray, for that. But like you said, I'm Jordan. As I mentioned before, I am a junior. So honestly, when I was a first year, service was not something that was on my radar at all. I was just kind of doing things that I was like, oh, I'll try this and I'll try this and I'll try this, and getting involved in a lot of things. And surprisingly enough, the things that I got involved with my first year at John Carroll, I am still highly involved with today, which I am very happy to say, because it was good for me to find my passions early on, because I've been able to dive into them deeper and grow through them. So I became involved with CSSA towards the end of my first year. What really did it for me, Drew, I know you're going to love this, was I went on Jesuit Day of Service and I was like, I should be a liaison. So that's how I got involved. I did not do a weekly service my freshman year at all. I just I did some one-time service things, and I am very involved with the Labra Project, which is another service club on campus. So through those things, I was like, you know what, this is something I'm going to try. And I tried it and I ended up loving it. I did service all my sophomore year, and now I'm on the student leadership team, and it is one of the best things that I've gotten involved with at John Carroll. It really, I think for me, the biggest thing about CSSA is that it connects you with a community of people that is unlike anything else. Like, the people that do service at John Carroll are so unique, and you really get to form really good relationships with them. And I think that's part of the reason why I've stuck around for as long as I have, is that I found some of my best friends by doing service with them and doing different community projects with them and stuff like that. So it is definitely a really good way to get involved. It's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to just kind of dip your toe into different things, see what you like, see what you don't. And yeah, future wise, I think doing service through CSSA has affirmed a lot of the things that I was already thinking. As I mentioned, I'm a double STEM major, so I know that I want to work with kids. That was affirmed through CSSA, and I know that I want to work with kids with intellectual disabilities. through doing youth ability and other services through CSSA, I have really found a love and a passion for those things. So much so that I started a club this past year with one of my friends called Best Buddies that's doing the same thing. So yeah, CSSA just really broadens your mind to a lot of different things and is just a great way to get involved. So yeah, with that, I'm gonna pass it on to Drew.
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I'm a senior and I've been involved in service for these whole past 4 years. But to touch on your question, Noel, I'm an Arupe scholar. So I think my journey through service began through that program because we do a lot of the service learning courses that Sister Catherine was talking about earlier in the presentation. And that kind of set me on a path towards CSSA, doing the service learning courses that way. And also I got involved through service through my upperclassman mentor, John Tucci, who got me on to do Jesuit Day of Service. And from there, I'd done service through so many different places around Cleveland, and there's too many to count, but some that I love are through the Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry, which has an amazing men's homeless shelter here. And I've done a lot of great work through the Fatima Family Center, which is a community center in the Huff community in Cleveland that helps youth there. But in terms of a thing I can touch on is my future direction. I'm doing financial and accounting industries, and I'm working for KPMG, and I start in September. And honestly, doing service has allowed me to get that position because I had so much to talk about through my interview process. And being able to show that you're an all-around person through John Carroll is an awesome way to talk about how you care about the community, what you do outside of class, and being involved in somewhere like CSSA is an awesome thing to talk about in interviews and to show future employers. And I'm going to be involved in the volunteer work I do at KPMG starting in September, and I think CSSA has definitely helped me continue that. Yeah, and I see that the chat's kind of popping up a little bit here, so that's my spiel as well. And yeah.
Jordan and Ray, you both, and I think Drew too, you've all been on immersion trips. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because some of the service that we do on campus has an international connection as well. And there's a lot of collaboration across units at John Carroll. Jordan, did you want to jump in there first?
Yeah, I can definitely explain mine. Oh, sorry. My headphones are getting a little messed up here with Zoom. But anyway, my sophomore year, I was lucky enough to get to travel to Jamaica for an immersion experience through campus ministry. And I actually found out about immersions through one of my CSSA liaisons. One of my fellow liaisons introduced me to that whole program, which was really cool. And I heard about it and I was like, all right, let me get the lowdown. And I ended up going to Jamaica, and it was one of the best things I've done. So I think that there's definitely a huge overlap, seeing as myself, Drew, and Ray, all of us have been on immersions and are all on the student leadership team in CSSA. There's definitely a huge overlap, draws a very similar demographic of people. So if you have any questions about that, CSSA is a great place to turn as well.
And if I can just jump in here, Jordan, because I saw Noel's comment in the chat about asking about the US-Mexico border immersion trip, which I was fortunate enough to go on as well during my sophomore year. And that was a combined, trip to El Salvador as well. So very, very holistic, a lot of traveling. But as someone who is studying Spanish, it was very eye-opening to look at the ways in which different communities, even outside of the US, are affected by social justice issues that we may or may not see here up close in Cleveland and abroad. And I think something that's really neat is that campus ministry through the immersion program and CSSA both try to remain very intentional with the way we go about heading out into the communities. I mean, in CSSA, we don't look at service as just a one-off type of event. We don't look at it as simply helping someone with something they need, but it's a really mutual experience. And I think the same sort of quality is present in an immersion trip as well. You're not simply traveling somewhere to build a house, in Jamaica or El Salvador. You are traveling somewhere to learn about the history of the people and the culture, and offer them, allow them the space to offer, their home up to you and to show you around and make them feel valued and help them to connect with people worldwide. And so it's in a lot of ways, it's hard to describe unless you've really been through it, but it's something I would highly encourage people to look at experiencing, once those become available again, because any type of interaction with communities and groups that you may not have an opportunity to, or have had the opportunity to interact with in the past, are really just going to broaden your worldview and help you sort of become a more well-rounded person. So that's kind of my take on any of that.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think that both what campus ministry does so well during the in the immersions and what we do in CSSA is, like you were saying, Ray, these experiences are powerful and they're not just meant to be, something that you put on your resume or something that you say like, wow, that was interesting and enjoyable, but they're transformative. So I know in the way that campus ministry runs their immersions and throughout our service activities, the student liaisons are really challenging participants to reflect on, how is this experience changing me? What do I need to learn more about in order to recognize, my position in the world, what I have to offer, what are some of the root causes of these, inequalities that you might see in really stark ways on an immersion or in service. So we do that in a lot of ways, through reflection. And then we also have a workshop at the end of each semester called Now What? And that's a place where you can come after your semester of service and ask yourself those very questions in a structured way. How is this really powerful experience going to inform, what I want to do academically, on a personal level, vocation wise, like what am I going to do with this experience to kind of continue learning? So, and absolutely, Jordan. Yeah, social justice issues are a very common theme through both of our programs. Thank you all so much for your thoughts. I know we had some questions in the chat. Please keep them coming. They've really sparked some great comments. I know that we also wanted to encourage you all to follow us on social media. We have a really robust Instagram presence. So if you have your phone, you're welcome to either try to do the QR code there and give us a follow right now. We have, I know this week we have a student takeover almost every day. So those are the most fun, days to interact with us, is getting the student perspective and hearing, like our students have shared tonight, hearing about how CSSA informs, their everyday experience of John Carroll. And at this point, we'd love to just keep opening up to more questions. Noelle, I see, your question, how is the communication between those receiving service and those providing the service to ensure isn't a one-way relationship? You've already read Toxic Charity. It sounds like, we'd love to have your perspective. I see you raising your hand, Jordan.
So I read that book to prepare for my immersion to Jamaica, and it is definitely an eye-opener of,
I think I cried like twice while reading it.
Oh,
I was like,
so
this is
powerful. It's so powerful, and it really does make you think about service. I'm so glad you brought that up, because it definitely shows you the difference between a healthy service relationship and not. I would say that through CSSA and immersions or whatever service you're doing at John Carroll, I think this is a consistent theme of the service is for and with others. It's not just for someone else. You are getting just as much as you are giving from these relationships. It's like Ray was mentioning earlier, it's nothing that you can really explain. When you go to service at John Carroll, you are going to hang out with friends. You're not going to with the intention of serving a community. You are, but I always look at it as, oh, I'm going to see blah blah blah, and I'm so excited to see that one person or something like that. It's very people oriented, and it is very relationship focused, which I think is something really cool about service at John Carroll.
And if I can just piggyback on that, Jordan, part of what's really important is the mutuality with which we engage in the community and the profound respect that we have for each and every member that we work with, have the joy of learning from in every encounter. And that's part of our student training. It's part of the way we help orient students to prepare to engage respectfully, responsibly, humbly in the community, but so that there is this beautiful exchange between human beings, not anything else. We're not there to save or to fix or to help in that toxic charity sort of way, but we're really here to share a journey of being human together. It's a great question. Thank you.
What else would you like to know? Feel free to unmute or use the chat, whatever you're most comfortable with.
One interesting thing I just want to raise up as well, because as I've been working at the Center for Service and Social Action, I've been amazed at how transformed the faculty have become as well. And so in the past, I think, in high school oftentimes and grade school, service projects really are those one way, we'll give you this or we'll help you do that. But what's profound at John Carroll is that the faculty really instill the vision of mutuality and reciprocity in the work that they do in the classroom. And so you can really take a deep dive into what you're learning in terms of theories or frameworks, but then you can actually really see them in the real world exposure to what you're doing with the community. So the way the faculty have engaged this type of learning style, this experiential learning, really is a high impact practice in higher ed. And the university has been widely recognized for the work that our faculty do, especially in this regard, which means that they engage you as students in the whole process as well. So that makes for a really dynamic learning experience. And I know Drew, Jordan, and Ray have all taken a service learning course. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit. Ray, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, I did, just because I think I've taken, I'm in a project-based learning course right now, and I've taken 2 other service learning courses that were more weekly based. And something that I think is really worth noting is that in some service learning courses, the whole class might be working with the same community partner and developing a class-wide relationship with them. And in other courses, your peers might be at various different sites that look at similar issues, but you can kind of come back together and reflect on what different community partners are doing and sort of glean the knowledge from your peers in the classroom as well. And that also takes place with the Summer in the City internship. There may be a cohort of 8 to a dozen students doing that every season, but they're typically at different community placements and sort of reporting back to one another in community and researching social justice issues that are pertinent to their site. And so I think that that's another way that you become more aware of the community at large, is you're not just doing service at one placement at one time, but you're sort of learning about all the different programs that are in place or that need to be in place for the community at large through your interaction with your classmates as well.
I think kind of off of that, if I can add something real quick, Heather, I have always been more of a visual learner and like an interactive learner. So being able to connect like a service opportunity to the classroom has been very helpful for me. And even if it's not necessarily like a service learning course, just being able to be like, oh, I'm in this peace, justice, and human rights course right now, and I'm doing blah, blah, blah in service, and I can see the connection between the two. It really shows you like how what you're doing in the classroom is implemented in the community. And that's like a really cool thing to experience on a whole different level.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for those direct, testimonies of how powerful it can be to be in a weekly placement, alongside your class. On a totally different note, I don't know how many of you have been able to get to campus, but just to kind of orient you, we're in the admin building on what's charitably called the garden level, right? It's the first kind of floor of admin. We're right across from Einstein's Bagels. Of course, this last year has been very different, but now that students are back in campus, it's just amazing to see people stopping by the office. A little more so this semester, but definitely, next year we will live up to our reputation of always having something to eat and snacks in the office. We have a lounge area where a lot of the students who work for us and just friends can come and chill out, do your homework. It's just a nice space to connect. So I would welcome you all to come by, either reach out. I mean, we're happy to meet virtually. We welcome you to our office when your time and circumstances allow. We're just really eager to get to know everything you bring and hopefully integrate your voice and your experiences in our work as well.
Well, wonderful. If there are any additional questions tonight, please add them to the chat. I just wanted to also remind everyone that we are hosting personalized visits virtually. So if you would like to learn more specifically about CSSA, that is an option through a personalized visit. And then also a reminder that we have many more of these webinars coming up in the next few weeks through the month of April. I made note that Campus Ministries webinar is on March 24th, but many other really cool opportunities as well. So keep your eye out on emails for those promotions. With that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up unless we have any other last comments from our presenters and panel. All right, well, wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight and enjoy your evening.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much. I will definitely be emailing you, Miss Heather.
Reach out anytime, Noelle. I'd love to chat.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.